Hey guys, what is going on today? Bojo here, and in today's video we are going to be doing my personal predictions for the 2016 Stanley Cup playoffs here on the bracket challenge on NHL.com. So if you guys want to do your own bracket here on NHL.com, there's tons of links that you can find. There's a ton on Twitter. There's probably a link for it somewhere on NHL.com's website, which you will be able to go into this little bracket challenge that they have set up for us. You can pick the teams, number of games, obviously final score, and then if you have an account with NHL, you can sign in and save your bracket. And I think they're going to be doing something for the person that, gets closest to predicting what the finals are going to look like. But once again, like our NHL 16 prediction videos, these matchups are already preset. If you guys want to go watch and see who EA Sports and NHL 16 predicted will win the Stanley Cups this year, make sure to go check out the link in the description down below. But today, I'm going to be doing my personal predictions for this little Eastern Conference and Western Conference matchups here in round number 1. I'm going to do the whole thing. Actually, you guys can let me know. I'm going to do the whole thing for this one, but if you guys want me to do a second one for round number 2 and the conference finals and the Stanley Cup, you guys can let me know about that for future videos. But today, I'm just going to be doing the thing as a whole entirety. So we're going to start off in the Western Conference first. And, I'm not really that educated in the Western Conference. I'm more of an Eastern Conference guy since my favorite team is the Flyers. So I know a little bit more about Eastern Conference teams than I do Western Conference teams. But I'm going to give it my all, or give it a go in this Western matchup. So first up, we got the Dallas Stars up against the Minnesota Wild here in this first round matchup. So an interesting matchup here, obviously, with the Dallas Stars. You have Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin just going on an absolute rampage so far this year. Dallas finishing with the best record, I believe, in the Western Conference, which is a pretty good effort by them. Going up against the Minnesota Wild, who, are a very defensive-minded team, I would definitely say so, up against a high-powered offense like the Dallas Stars. The main point of this series is going to be shutting down Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn for the Wild. If they can do that, they might have a good time, but Dallas does have a lot of really good secondary scoring options. I mean, Jason Spezza, Valerie Nichushkin, Klingberg, even on their offense. Their defense has some offense to them as well. So it's going to be a tough series for there. Goaltending-wise, I do think that Devin Dubnyk does have the advantage over either Dallas goaltender, where they want to go with Corey Lettinen or Antti Niemi. I'm not even sure which goaltender they're going to be going with in Dallas. That's going to be a problem there too. If one of those goaltenders start to follow, do they switch the goaltenders out and whatnot, or are they just going to ride with either Niemi or Lettinen? I think they're going to go with Niemi if my memory does serve me correctly, but we'll see how that goes. But I think the offense of the Dallas Stars is just going to be a little bit too much for the Minnesota Wild to handle. The Wild do have their history of pulling off some upsets in the first round, especially in previous playoff matchups. But I think I'm going to go with the Dallas Stars here in this first round matchup, and I think I'm going to go with 5 games there. I think Dallas will have an easy time right there in the first round. Now, moving on to this matchup right here. This is probably one of the more difficult matchups to predict right here. The St. Louis Blues and the Chicago Blackhawks, two teams that have a very, very deep playoff history here. I mean, every time Chicago seems to make it into the playoffs and they come up against the St. Louis Blues, they end up ruining the St. Louis Blues' dreams of making it to the Stanley Cup. This is a very, very tough matchup here. The St. Louis Blues have a very hot goaltender right now in Mr. Brian Elliott, who's been, I think, on like 11 or 12 game tear right now. So their goaltending's pretty hot. Chicago is, Corey Crawford just came back from an injury. So you don't know if he's going to be a little bit rusty out of the gate into these playoff matches. You would assume that he's going to be, back to the Corey Crawford that we know, that obviously all hockey fans know, but might be a little bit of a rusty start for Corey Crawford early on in this series. He might have to get back and adjusted into that, the flow of the game, because he did get that start, and I believe he lost against the Columbus Blue Jackets 5-4. So, he gave up, 5 goals in that game. So, it's going to be a question there to see if Corey Crawford is actually at 100%. Chicago's dealing with some injuries as well. I know Marian Hossa, I believe, is dealing with some injury problems as well. But, they have a little combo there in Chicago, which I think might be a little bit hard to handle. Mr. Patrick Kane and Artemi Panarin. the dynamic duo, as you guys will probably know them by at these playoffs. Chicago just likes to turn on in a different level once the playoffs begins. Same thing with the LA Kings. And, Chicago's offense is still going to be a really, really tough task there for the St. Louis Blues. But I believe the St. Louis Blues defense is really, really good this year, if I do believe so. They're going to be a tough task to get through as well. Their offense, Tarasenko's been getting it done. I don't know how good. I think St. Louis has a really good depth goal scoring wise. Same thing with like the Dallas Stars. They have their one or two studs in like Backes and Tarasenko, and then they have a lot of guys who can score some goals, like score some other goals like Steen, Berglund, Laterra, guys like that. Even their defensemen Pietrangelo, Shattenkirk, Bouwmeester. I think the St. Louis Blues will definitely give Chicago a run for their money. But it's a really tough matchup here. St. Louis does have home ice advantage in the series to start. I have to go with the Chicago Blackhawks in here, but I would not be surprised if the St. Louis Blues do pull off an upset here in this first round matchup. But I'm going to take Chicago, and I say this one goes the distance, man. This is going to be that's going to be one of the better first round matchups to watch in this playoff so far. I say Chicago takes that, and I think in 7 games Chicago takes that. That's going to be a very, very long fought series. Now, move on to the next one. We got the Anaheim Ducks and the Nashville Predators. Another interesting matchup here. So the Ducks working with some young goaltenders, Frederik Andersen, John Gibson. Obviously, I think they're going to go with Andersen, I think, in the playoffs to start. But the Ducks seem to have their scoring touch back under control. Getzlaff scoring, Perry's scoring, Kessler, all their rookies, or not all their rookies, all their younger players are scoring as well. Silverberg seems to be getting his scoring touch back once again. Everything seems to be clicking the Anaheim Ducks' way right now. And as for the Nashville Predators, it seems like that chemistry between Ryan Johansson, James Neal, and Philip Forsberg does seem to be blooming into it as well. And that Nashville defense is probably one of the better defenses in the entire NHL. Shea Weber, Roman Josi, Ryan Ellis, Ekholm, all those types of players there on the Nashville Predators. Obviously, you still have Pekka Rinne, who's a phenomenal goaltender in the back of the net. This will be another very good close matchup here, to say the least. It's going to be another Anaheim's offense versus Nashville's defense kind of series, where Nashville does have the advantage. Obviously, they do have a really good first line with Forsberg, Neal, and Johansson, but as we get by the Nashville Predators' top line, is there really anything beyond that? I mean, you have Craig Smith, Colin Wilson, Mike Fisher. Not really much depth goal scoring, it seems, on part of the Nashville Predators. So that might be the Predators' downfall here in this first round. I do believe that is going to be their downfall here, is the lack of depth goal scoring. If Neal, Johansson, and Forsberg can really click together, maybe they'll give Anaheim a run for their money. But I think it's going to be Nashville's lack of depth goal scoring, which is really going to hinder them in this series. So I'm going to take Anaheim in this one, and I'll give Nashville some credit here. I'm going to say it goes to 6. Maybe they'll try to steal some games in there. Maybe Rinne and their defense will steal a couple games or two, but I still think Anaheim will take an early lead. Nashville will try to fight back in the series, but then the Anaheim will shut down that series relatively quickly. And then here we go, the LA Kings and the San Jose Sharks. Now, you know what they say about the LA Kings in the playoffs. No matter how they play in the regular season, same thing like the Blackhawks, the LA Kings just play like a team on crack in the playoffs. Like, they are just absolutely crazy when it comes into the playoffs. I mean, Jonathan Quick, LA's defense is still a little bit shaky, but they got guys like Drew Doughty. They have Luke Shen. I mean, what more can you ask for? They got Luke Shen back in their defense as well, so he's gonna be giving them some defensive support. But just LA's goal scoring, man. Toffoli, Pearson, Carter, Gaborik, Kopitar. I think LA has way too many studs there on offense. But then again, opposed to San Jose, LA and San Jose definitely have a very similar team on paper. I mean, Thornton going up against Kopitar, Pavelski against, Carter. A player-for-player matchup on offense, San Jose and the LA Kings are very evenly matched up. Thornton has had a really great year. Same thing with Marleau and Pavelski. Burns has had a really great year on defense as well for the San Jose Sharks, matching up against Drew Doughty. Player for player, LA and San Jose match up really well, except for the goaltender position. Now, granted, Martin Jones has had one hell of a pretty dang good year, But let's be honest. Who would you have more faith in playoffs? Martin Jones, who has, I believe, not had any playoff experience whatsoever other than backing Jonathan Quick in Los Angeles Kings runs, or would you have faith in Jonathan Quick, who has won 2 Stanley Cups for the LA Kings? That's going to be the major difference in this series. Even though Martin Jones has played very well for the Sharks this year, I got to give the nod to LA's goaltending in this series. Like I said, on paper, offense and defense match up very, very evenly, but I do think the LA Kings will definitely come out on top of this one. And I'm going to go 5 games on this one. Sorry, San Jose fans. It's just going to be another year where you guys just cannot get to at least the conference finals again. It's the Sharks curse. What can I say? When the Sharks just do not have a good team when it comes to the when they just don't have the thing when it comes to the playoffs. I don't know, but all right. We're going to go to my game right here. I was going to wait for last, but I might as well talk about it right now. Washington Capitals against the Philadelphia Flyers. President's Trophy winning Washington Capitals have everything going for them right now. You got almost a 50-win goaltender in Braden Holtby. You got one of the best power plays. You got one of the best penalty kills in the entire league. You have a 50-goal scorer in Alexander Ovechkin. And, Washington has everything going for them right now. Philadelphia, on the other hand, very interesting team. Being a Flyers fan, this is, to say the very least, as a Flyers fan, Flyers have really no expectations going into the playoff run here. They were supposed to be a rebuilding team, and they squeaked into the final wildcard spot. So pretty much all it is now for the Flyers in this case is to just try to get as much playoff experience as you can. Even though the only rookies on our team are Nick Cousins and Shane Gostisbehere, you want to try to get these guys some playoff experience as possible. You want to get Dave Hackstall some playoff experience as well. That's going to be the main thing for Flyers fans or the Flyers team as a whole, is to get their head coach some experience here in the playoffs. Now, I'm going to try to stay unbiased as humanly possible, but when it comes down to it, Steve Mason has been just grinded throughout the past 2 weeks of this last week of the NHL season. He's been grinding. He's played almost every single game for the Flyers down the stretch here. Fatigue might be a factor, but this looks like Steve Mason actually might get a good, decent playoff run here. His playoff stats are very good, even though last year he went 2-2 2 years ago, 2-2 against the Rangers. He has a save percentage of around .94, which is actually not too bad. Steve Mason is actually a very, very good goaltender when it comes to playoff stats. As opposed to Braden Holtby, though, Holtby's on another level. Will the Capitals turn it up when it comes to the playoff time? That's going to be another determining factor here. I think Washington's offense is going to be a little bit too much for Philadelphia's defense because, to be honest, our defense is terrible. I mean, Mark Streit, Nick Schultz, Andrew McDonald, Shane Gostisbehere, Brandon Manning, and another guy I'm not thinking of right off the top of my head. I forgot our 6th defenseman, whatever the case. Washington's offense, in my personal opinion, I think is going to be way too much for the Flyers, although the Flyers have played the Washington Capitals very, very well this year. They've given them some very tough games, and the most recent matchup, the Flyers did end up winning that. But to stay unbiased, I think Washington's offense, even though they've kind of struggled down the stretch here, resting some players, losing a couple games here and there, I think Washington just turns it up to a whole nother level. They are the playoff favorites, without a doubt, in this playoffs this year. So, as much as a Flyers fan I am, I'm going to try to stay as unbiased as well. I'm going to be rooting for the Flyers, no doubt. Like I said, I won't be surprised. I will be happy if the Flyers beat the Capitals, but I think Washington's offense is just going to be way too much for this Flyers team. That and the fact that Washington is I would say they're a more physical team than the Flyers are. The Flyers are trying to get away from that physical type of play, other than, like the Wayne Simmonses and the Ryan Whites, players like that. And the Radko Gudas, that's who it was, Gudas. How can I forget my man? And the Radko Gudases, but I think Washington is just going to be a more physical type of team over Philly. I'm going to say 6 games. I think the Flyers will steal a couple games here and there, but I still think Washington will just be able to have a good, easy time with the series over the Flyers. But I'm going to be cheering for my Fly guys nonetheless. All right, Pittsburgh versus the New York Rangers. Now, Pittsburgh is in a very interesting situation because, one, You're without Marc-Andre Fleury, and now it seems you're going to be without Matt Murray as well. I mean, the way I heard over the radio today, it seemed like the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to be without Matt Murray as well coming into the playoffs. I don't know when either of those goaltenders are scheduled to be coming back, but as a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, it doesn't look good for you right now going into round one against the New York Rangers with Jeff Zatkoff, I guess, as your starting goaltender. That's not really anything to be really too secure about as a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. As for the Rangers, though, I mean, you have Henrik Lundqvist. You have a defense like the New York Rangers, who is obviously very, very good. A very good shutdown type of defense like the New York Rangers. And then their offense, they have a lot of scoring threats on this New York Rangers team. Rick Nash, Eric Stahl, all the young guys like Kreider, JT Miller, Kevin Miller. You know, you got a lot of Kevin Miller? Is it Kevin Miller? Kevin Hayes. I keep saying Kevin Miller, Kevin Hayes. You got a lot of different scoring touches here. Brassard, Stepan, you know, a lot of different depth scoring opportunities here on this New York Rangers team. And I think that could be, Rangers might be able to steal this series away from the Pittsburgh Penguins if they are having some goaltender troubles right now. You know, it's going to be interesting to see. Pittsburgh's offense has to carry them through this series. They need Crosby, they need Kessel, they need Hagelin, they need those guys to really step it up for the Penguins in this series, or else the Rangers are just going to walk right all over them because their goaltender is going to let Pittsburgh down. So, if Pittsburgh's offense comes out to play and really just manages to surprise this Rangers team, I see Pittsburgh winning. But if the Rangers can capitalize on a couple games here and there when Pittsburgh doesn't have their number one or their number two goaltender in the nets, I'm going to pick the New York Rangers over this series against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I think because of those goaltending woes that the Pittsburgh Penguins just happen to fall upon them, you know, I think that will be a huge factor in the series. Now I'm going to take the Rangers, and I say this one goes to 7, depending on how the with the goaltending, you know, situation in Pittsburgh is going to be. I say it goes to 7. I say it could go either way, but I have the Rangers coming out on top of that series. Now, Florida and the New York Islanders. Very interesting series once again. To be honest, sorry, Islanders fans, but I really don't see how you guys are going to win. I do not see you guys win this series whatsoever. I don't see you guys challenging for this series at all. I don't think Halak's coming back at all. That could be corrected, but I think you're starting goaltenders Thomas Greiss up against Roberto Luongo, so I give the edge to Luongo there for sure. Florida's defense is probably a hell of a lot better than... It's not great. It's not that much better than the Islanders, but it is better than the New York Islanders. And then offensively wise, I mean, that Barkov, Huberdeau, and Jágr line is ridiculous. Vincent Trocheck has been stepping it up for the Florida Panthers as of lately, too. Jokinen. Florida does have a lot of really good depth goal scorers as well. Florida's a very chippy and grindy type of team with a lot of two-way type of forwards and a lot of players that will be able to crash the net. So I'm not going to really take too much time on this one because I really don't see it as much of a challenge for the Florida Panthers in this one. I think they take it, and I think they take it quick, maybe in 5 games. And now this one. Tampa Bay versus the Detroit Red Wings. Oh, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay. No Steven Stamkos, and it looks like no Tyler Johnson either. That's 2 really big hurts right there. That's a center and a winger. That is a center and a winger. Or 2 centers, I think. I don't know. Might be a center and a winger. But whatever the case, that's 2 really top players for the Tampa Bay Lightning that they are going to be missing out right now. So Tampa Bay looks to be in a little bit of a pickle right there. They're gonna need some rookies to definitely step it up for them for sure. Looking at you, Nikita Kucherov. Looking at you, maybe Jonathan Drouin, a guy who's been bitching all postseason long. Let's see what you're about, kid. Let's see if you can step it up for this Tampa Bay team while you have some of your star players out right now. Pretty sure they might. Like I said, guys, I don't know much information on the injuries right now, but they could be coming back in the series. If they do, you know, obviously it can go either way. But the way I'm looking at it right now, no Steven Stamkos and possibly no Tyler Johnson for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Ben Bishop, obviously a solid goaltender this year. The Lightning's defense seems to be fairly solid as well. You know, a lot of flyers on there. Coburn and Carl getting it done. Going back to the playoffs once again. But, you know, they need the depth players to step up for Tampa Bay for sure. And Nikita Kucherov, without any question, him and Palat will definitely need to carry that team. Palat had a very good postseason run last year. You know, see if he can bring it back there once again. But Kucherov is one guy who really needs to step it up for the Lightning. As for the Detroit Red Wings, forget about the Pavel Datsyuk talks right now. Don't worry about that right now. That's not your main concern. Worry about getting far in this getting far in the playoffs here. If Pavel Datsyuk, if this is his last year, get him a deep run right now. And Detroit's offense, it seems to be a little bit. It's kind of scribbling up in the past couple of games to end off the season. They haven't been scoring that many goals. Their defense is playing a lot better, I should say. Jimmy Howard seems to have a revival of some sort right now, playing a hell of a lot better than Pierre Mrazek did. Mrazek was struggling at the back of the end of the year. Jimmy Howard stepped in, and it looks like he'll be the starter when come playoff time for the Detroit Red Wings team. But it's going to be, once again, will the stars come to play for the Detroit Red Wings? Pavel Datsyuk, Henrik Zetterberg, Gustav Nyquist, a lot of young players on this Detroit Red Wings team. How will Dylan Larkin fare in the playoffs? That's going to be another huge key factor right there. We'll see if Dylan Larkin can adjust from the regular season into the playoffs here. Now, I'm going to go with Detroit in this series. I think the injury bug is just going to cause Tampa Bay a little bit too much problems. And I think that one will probably go to 6 games as well, depending upon the injuries for those series. So I have no sweeps in the first round. So I have, 2 Game 5? Let me see. We have 2 Game 7s between St. Louis and Chicago, Pittsburgh and New York. We have 2 Game 5s between Dallas and Minnesota, Florida and New York Islanders, and LA Kings and San Jose Sharks. And then 3 6 games between Washington, Philly, Anaheim, Nashville, and Tampa Bay, Detroit. So, in the West, we have Dallas up against Chicago, which will be an insane series if that actually does end up happening. Like I said, we saw the matchups between those two teams. Who I think would win that series, Dallas and Chicago? I go with the Dallas Stars in that series. I really do. I really go with the Dallas Stars. I would think they would beat them. And then Anaheim and the LA Kings. Another tough series to pick here. I go with the Anaheim Ducks over the LA Kings. And that one, I'm taking both first seeds from the conference finals there in the West. And then in the East, Washington versus the New York Rangers. Very evenly matched up there. I go with the Washington Capitals, and then Florida Detroit. I think I go with the Florida Panthers in this one to make the conference finals. I really do. I think Florida is just going to be a much grittier and much more hungry team than the Detroit Red Wings in that series. If it does happen, like I said, Florida's that gritty type of team that will just go to the front of the net. They'll chip and grind for pucks, and I think Florida might be able to make it to the conference finals this year. So, who would my Stanley Cup predictions be? Dallas, Anaheim, Florida, Washington, Florida, and Washington. All the first seeds. I have all the top seeds making it into the Stanley Cup Finals for this one. Dallas versus Anaheim. That's a really tough one. That is a really tough series to pick. I go with... Oh, man, that is so difficult to pick. Those teams are so evenly matched up on paper. Anaheim's goaltending is probably just a smidge better than Dallas. But, once again, another evenly matched up there. I think Ben and Sagan will overtake Perry and Getzlaf, and I take the Dallas Stars to make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, and they'll face Washington. They will face Washington in the Stanley Cup Finals, and then I think the Washington Capitals will end up... Actually, no. I'll take the Dallas Stars to win the Stanley Cup the Stanley Cup this year over the Washington Capitals. That'd be an insane series to watch. Dallas versus Washington, and enter goal scored in the final series. It's either going to be really high scoring or really defensive scoring, but I think it's going to be on the high end side of things. I would say maybe close to 25 goals scored in the final series between those two teams. I would say 25 goals as a total. So that's a little over almost like 4 goals total per game. So that'd be a little bit that'd be a pretty interesting series. But I have Dallas. I'll take Dallas to win the Stanley Cup championship this year over the Washington Capitals. How many games? Probably 7. I would say I could see that series going to 7 without any doubt. But that is what I think will happen for this year's 2016 Stanley Cup playoffs. I'm cheering for Philly, but in my personal opinion, I think the Dallas Stars will walk away the Stanley Cup champions this year over Washington, as I do think the Capitals will make it to the Stanley Cup finals, because the way I see Washington, the way it playing out here, they have a very easy road to the conference finals. They could take care of Philly if Philly doesn't give them a hard time. I don't see them having a problem with the New York Rangers. If they get up to Washington can beat any team in that lower bracket. Florida, the Islanders, Tampa Bay, Detroit, none of those teams pose any sort of problem for the Washington Capitals. All teams, Washington, Philly, Pittsburgh, and the New York Rangers, all those teams, moreover, Pittsburgh, New York Rangers, and Washington, I think can beat any team down there in the bottom bracket without any question. So I think Washington does have a very easy trip to the conference finals, and especially the Stanley Cup finals. But it's definitely going to be the Western Conference matchups there that are going to be very interesting, and any of those matchups can go either way. A lot of difficult matchups there, especially in that second round. Dallas, Chicago, even St. Louis, Chicago, Anaheim, LA, Dallas, Anaheim. It's going to be tough to pick through, but I have the Dallas Stars winning the Cup. Let me know what you guys think. How you think the playoffs will match up here. How you think my predictions will match up to how it eventually go. Leave your opinions down there in the comments section down below. And don't forget to check out what NHL 16 predicts will happen in the Stanley Cup finals of this year. So thanks for watching the video, guys. Remember, you can do this own bracket thing here in the playoffs. Let me know if you guys want me to start my own bracket, and you guys could join along on the bracket challenge as well. Maybe I'll give a hut reward for the winner who gets the closest in the bracket challenge. Let me know about that. But thanks for watching, guys. Leave a like, comment, subscribe as always, and I will see you guys next time. Enjoy some playoff hockey. Go Flyers!